All right, hi. Thank you for having me first. Well, I'm glad that I'm in the spot talking after you, because we do have kind of similar topics when also I think we approach it from a very different direction. Because I am not a philosopher, I am a sociologist, and mostly I personally come from a sociology of technology and also of more than human sociology, a lot of science and technology studies, and which is some necessary context for what I'm going to talk about. I right now, for my PhD work in science studies, so I am doing ethnographic work with people who are working in natural science, especially climate science. So, here we go. Point of view, your tech priest. Well, as I sit down in my scriptorium, the cogitator comes alive with a touch of my finger. Its spirit has grown accustomed to in lengthy rituals of familiarization after it was first assigned to me. Eager to work, it presents me with chatter from the noosphere that still my flesh is too weak to perceive on its own. I calm it down, reassuring it that I have perceived its messages and warnings and will take care of them in time. But why would I want to take a tech priest's point of view? The short answer is to look at machines. The long answer is the talk I'm about to give. At the end, I hope I can make a point for looking for machine spirits, the motive force, and the messiah when trying to understand sociotechnical relations. All right, so just for structure, I will start laying out the problem. And the problem to me is the ethnographical observation of sociotechnical constellation, meaning looking, describing, observing what are social constellations that include not only human actors but also technological actors. The approach I want to take is the alienation of my observation and the diffraction by adopting fictional ontologies or more directly the point of view of a tech priest of the adeptus mechanicus or the cult mechanicus. So then I will try to lay out why a tech priest's point of view might be especially useful for this and come to possible routes and challenges ahead. So, the starting point for this talk is, as I already mentioned, outside of Warhammer. It is in the ethnography of the production of science. When researching how our knowledge is produced in scientific communities, which is what I do for my PhD, we find that not only humans are involved. And then we cannot ignore them just because we are used to placing them outside of the boundaries of the social. This is not a new take, right? The importance of more than human actors is a staple in science and technology studies. And concepts like the actor network theory, agential realism, theories of distributed action, etc., have been established to push the analysis beyond the boundary of human sociality. Still, I think there remains a problem, especially regarding the analysis of sociotechnical constellations, not only the analysis, but especially the ethnographic observation and description. When using ethnography, we usually use the circumstance that we as researchers come to the field and thus to the practices and assumptions in the field as an outsider, a stranger. What is usual for the participants is unusual for us and can thus be made visible. Right, this principle stems from the colonial origins of ethnography, but has since been used to research specific groups within modern, functionally differentiated Western societies, where, for example, I, as a sociologist, am sufficiently removed from the practice of natural scientists to still find their specific practices and cultures strange enough to make them stick out to me. This, in my opinion, creates a problem when trying to keep an open eye for how technological artifacts take part in these practices, especially when they are artifacts as I, the researcher, I'm already used to, like a laptop or other computers, telephones, and such. I share an intuitive understanding of technology as a tool, right? Used by human actors, and even if I know that this is just one specific view, it is the one that I was socialized to, right? Well, that feels natural to me. There is, however, someone who doesn't have the problem to be too close to a modern relationship to technology to question it. And this is the tech priest. In the eyes of the cult mechanicus, technology is not a tool just used by humans. It is a gift from the machine god, and more importantly, spirited and animated by the same motive force that drives our biological lives. A description of a situation, including a machine, will be very different when given by a tech priest instead of a member of the Western modernized society. Well, but how can this be of help to me? The problem I described regarding technology is not a new one in ethnography. It has been a problem in general ethnographic observation and description. Hirschauer has framed this problem as the being taken for granted, and described it as a major challenge for ethnographers in putting the social into words. It does not only apply to technology, but also to practices like the use of papers or the ways grant applications work, that are absolutely common for me as a researcher, even if I work in a completely different field. One strategy to overcome this problem is alienation, making things strange. And using this technique, I would try to describe it, or try to describe what I see in such a way, or maybe in such elaborate detail that I cannot take it for granted anymore. Or maybe the prime example of this is Horace Miner's text, The Body Roach Ritual Among the Nasirima, where he describes bathroom and healthcare habits of US Americans in the words of, well, a colonial ethnographer describing what he perceives as a foreign and strange culture. He goes how people are going to the mouth man once a year, and it must be some kind of ritual because they think it keeps their teeth from decaying, but they decay nonetheless. So where do they go? It must be a religious practice, right? So this is what he does. And to talk like this about what we perceive can make themselves visible that are usually overlooked. This is the point where the tech priest can be. In using the language of the cult mechanics, we may be able to make what seems usual strange again. And not only strange, the cult mechanicus use technology and machines by virtue of them being inhabited by machine spirits as social beings, in stark contrast to how technology is usually treated in modernist societies. Even if we sometimes talk to a machine, get angry at it, or maybe be sad when it breaks down, we would, if asked, most often not include the machine in the realm of the social. Our talk to machines framed is just a quirk, not something we would describe as a social interaction. Through this, the tech priest lets us tackle another problem to putting what we observe in relation to technology into words. The problem which, again, Hirschauer calls muteness. When trying to give a voice to participants, there are always problems of hierarchy, of rules about who may speak about what or what can be said. With technology, as is also the problem of people talking to gods, ghosts, or people on the telephone. We have the problem of muteness. We will not hear or see their part in the conversation or the practices, if they do not talk to us at least. I can analytically recognize the computer as a relevant actor in the field, but it will still not communicate with me the way I would expect from a person. In assuming a relationship to the machine spirit, the tech priest gives the voice to the machine. The hum of a tank's motor is recognized as an utterance of its eagerness to fight. The vibrations of the void ship as a sign of its calmness as it's orbiting a planet. I do not propose, however, that we should describe everything involving technology from the view of the tech priest, but that we use these descriptions as a tool for diffraction. The diffraction are then from Rad, and what does diffraction mean? I understand diffraction, at least for the given purpose, as a mode of connecting different viewpoints, not to compare them or have a reflect the one with the other, but to see what we can see when the different viewpoints overlap, and when we compare them, what ripples does it cause when these two viewpoints meet each other. The object of analysis is thus neither the one or other description, but we can see what we can see when we contrast. So I use the cult mechanicals from Warhammer 40k fiction for this. It would of course be possible for me to come up with my own narrative about technology and use this as a tool to make technology more visible in my descriptions. I mean, if I was a writer. But using this fictional technology, right, has a clear advantage. It is already there. It is already used in describing technology in fiction. There are a variety of descriptions available that can be used, and maybe even that through the long, I think that through the long time, Warhammer 40k and the cult mechanics exist in the fiction and have been included in works of many different authors in different contexts that we might already have more or less coherent system of thought that's described there. This helps us because I don't get when I try to describe, how could I describe this thing with something new, or always have to grasp for words, but I have words that I can use and hold on to, so in my descriptions. But oh, this is not what I wanted. Okay, that leads me to possible roads ahead and challenges to overcome. This idea is really has become obvious, I think, in the state of an idea, right? I have not put it to serious test, but before that, I think a coherent description or analysis of the cult is necessary to draw, and have more or less systematic guidelines on how to use it for a thick description of certain techniques. And then, most importantly, it is possible to test this as a method and use the point of view in field notes or protocols, and then to put them in relation to the observations and descriptions I would usually write. Well, then it may be determined if it really shows something new when used as a tool for diffraction and in the ethnography of sociotechnical systems. To end, well, the machine is my temple. Each one a sacred shrine. I name each piston blessed and every gear divine. Thank you for listening.